The lore of Year 10 Season 4 continues here, with operatives such as Maestro and maybe even more potentially joining Nighthaven after Rainbow's deactivation. The fact that Nighthaven could be the GSAC's replacement for Rainbow, and one of the most important things in this Battle Pass lore is a hint to the potential fact that Rainbow Six Siege's lore currently takes place years before we thought it did, and it doesn't run in line with our real progression of time. Oh, and Warden could be the next president of the United States. I'm serious. Drop a like on this video if you're going to enjoy it, sub if you haven't already, because not a lot of you are, and let's get into this video. So the GSAC have officially informed Rainbow that the program has been deactivated. Only 2 teams now remain operational, the Alpha team and the Delta team. Every other operator has been told to stand down. And in the Year 10 Season 4 Battle Pass, we get to see the perspective of different operators and Nighthaven agents, and the situation which is still unfolding with the explosives around Detroit around this time of Rainbow's deactivation. We begin with Who Dares Win, a dialogue by Thatcher about the current situation, with the title itself being the slogan of the SAS. And it reads, "Rainbow is the shield against threats like the Keres Legion. We can be any place in the world we're needed. The lads followed me when I made the call to join because they saw the same vision I did. Dokkaebi seemed off the mark to me at first, but it's taken this long to realize that we want the same thing. Rainbow just lets us go about it the ways we work best. She refused to stay down. She's gearing up to take on our last mission right now. I would feel proud if it wasn't buried solidly under all of this rage. There is no forgiveness. There is no holier than thou. I will kill as many of them as I am able for what they have done to her. All that's left is the work. This is Rainbow's last op, but you can bet your arse it'll be the last for Phobos." So prior to the announcement of Rainbow's deactivation, we can still see some of the teams operating in Detroit. Epsilon provides intel to any operative on the ground, saying, "Reported kidnapping. Last known position is near the steel mill. Do we have a team available to investigate?" Where this message would be responded to by Alibi saying, "Understood Epsilon, Kappa team will investigate." Now we get to see some of Kappa team here, which includes Jackal. And there's a little funny bit that happens here where he's saying, "If I have to look in one more train car, I'm calling Jaeger." And then it's followed up by another one saying, "Remember when I mentioned calling Jaeger about the trains Twitch? I have regrets." So yeah, based on a lot of the operator banner we have in game where Jaeger is, spitballing facts at everyone and how he always loves to go to libraries wherever he goes and is very knowledgeable in a lot of stuff, it seems like he also has the train fascination as well. So Jackal has made the mistake of bringing it up to Jaeger. Later on, Alibi would relay the outcome of this mission to Epsilon saying, "Mission accomplished Epsilon, hostage secured. Maestro's team made it just in time." Now, it's here that Alibi and Maestro would seem to converse a little bit, as we have a quote by Alibi saying, "Maestro, did you just say Vinzenried? That family had ties to the Vinci Guerras. I wish to speak to this Denari." So as we saw in the narrative for Operation High Stakes, Maestro and Denari were deployed on the mission to the Keres server together. Both of them speak Italian and seem to quite quickly grow fond of each other. Well, Alibi, when talking to Maestro here, has caught wind of Denari's surname, linking it to the Vinci Guerras. Now, if you're not aware, this is the crime family who own the map Villa, and it is this crime family that Alibi infiltrated and would help bring down. Now, this operation to bring them down would be escalated after intel was leaked to newspapers that would put the operation in jeopardy. Well, if you actually listen to a voice line between Scopos and Alibi, it seems like Alibi was actually the person who leaked that information, which subsequently caused Maestro's team to have to move in and take this family down. This was a massive part of Alibi's story. That's what her elite skin is based on as well. That is her undercover as an arms dealer. But it seems like this part of her history hasn't left yet, as apparently Denari's family's name is linked to the Vinci Guerras. Well, he did come from an upper class family, so maybe a lot of his family history was tied up in a lot of crime. Quite an interesting little piece that expands on Denari's lore as well as Alibi's. I'm actually quite interested to learn more about this in the future. Now, we see more operations happening across the city, again prior to the deactivation. this time specifically focusing on the bomb which was planted in the hospital, which has seemingly been cleared, and now Doc and Ace, as well as other ops such as Thunderbird, are aiding in civilian care in temporary tents as the hospital has been evacuated. We have some insight from Fenrir saying to plant their bombs in the hospital, they had to go through the medical staff. Chaos and death is all the Keres Legion can bring to this world. So if you actually saw my video the other day when we saw the true motives of the Keres Legion and Deimos, I said one of the things that the Keres Legion are hypocritical for, and especially what Deimos is hypocritical for, is that their targets don't necessarily seem to be civilian. Their targets are Rainbow and the GSAC and these politicians and these people above, which prevent the world from true change. Deimos saw how civilian casualties meant nothing, the nursery bombing in Bratislava, the work they were doing to capture the bomb maker, at the end of the day, changed nothing. That's what radicalized Deimos. However, them now causing death and injuries to medical staff just to plant explosives to affect Rainbow show the hypocrisy and how far they've actually gone from what may have been his original intention. That's what makes them a terrorist organization. That's what terrorists are. They're hypocrites. They always claim that there's a cause they're fighting for and it's for the greater good, but at the end of the day, it's always civilians who are the ones facing the true pain of it all. Deimos saw what happened in Bratislava, and he's pretty much doing the same thing. The Keres Legion are doing the same thing. He is no better than the terrorists who blew up the nursery. And it's fitting that Fenrir can see this as well, because he defected from them. He saw what happened. The moment he saw what the Keres Legion were truly doing and what their true intentions were, he fled to Rainbow and told them everything. That's what makes Fenrir a better man than Deimos. That's why he is on Rainbow and has earned his spot more than Gerald has. But it's really interesting as we continue to look at this situation unfolding with this medical tents and this emergency service they're doing after the hospitals have been evacuated. We get some insight from Nurse P. Jackson, who is a worker at this hospital, saying, "They haven't cleared the hospital of explosives yet. Keep as many stable as we can until then." Who is that doctor ordering everyone around? And that doctor is, of course, Doc himself, who is taking control of this situation, as well as Ace, who is working alongside him here. And it's really nice to see Ace for once in the story, not just being an egotistical dickhead. We actually get to see him put his medical and humanitarian skills to use, as well as his search and rescue efforts as well. We have this one by Callie saying, "The people of Detroit won't soon forget your damn smile. Good work on the search and rescue." And we have one from Ace during one of these search and rescue missions where he saved a kid, saying, "I know helicopters can be scary, kid. Tell you what, why don't we both look brave in a photo together?" It's really nice to see this side of Ace in this battle pass, the good man that is there and how much he actually saves civilians. That's what he does. A lot of the time in the battle passes, we just kind of see him getting on the nerves of his fellow Nighthaven agents. So to see him in the field shows you how truly a great man he is and a great search and rescue operative. He talks to Doc in this next one saying, 3 more burn cases and 1 GSW in triage, Doc. Decent radials, but I'm swamped in the CCU tent. Is Thunderbird back from her supply run yet?" And we also have one from Doc talking to Ace saying, "Take over the shrapnel excision, Ace. They need me in surgery. Now." So this really helps paint the picture of this temporary hospital that they have set up away from these high-risk areas, with Doc taking charge, all these hospital workers, Ace assisting Doc, Thunderbird trying to get more supplies. It's really good world building for this fallout which is happening in Detroit. And we have an interesting one grouped in this section as well, and it's intercepted Keres Legion chatter saying, "One life for the cause. I give mine willingly." That may be the first time we've heard one of the masked Keres soldiers actually speak. And it's a very stone cold statement. Because at the end of the day, the true cause isn't still a full picture to Rainbow. Yeah, they want to take down Rainbow, but there's more than that. And we discussed that in that video I posted the other day. But that's a really interesting insight to get there. We can also see an operation which took place with Wamai and Tubarao, both of which specialize in diving. With Tubarao saying, "There was no time for a submersible. So Wamai is disarming the bomb outside the Windsor Tunnel solo. He's been under for 10 minutes. Now, not only is it really cool to see these two operators interacting because of how similar their skill set is, but we also know that Wamai can hold his breath for an insane amount of time. And we're also seeing that used in action as well here. Now, I also want to make note as well that the Windsor Tunnel in Detroit isn't too far away from the Polaris building when we match it up on the Keres Legion's bomb map. Could that be linked? Maybe, maybe not. There's explosives all over Detroit, but I thought that was worth noting. But we also have another one for Tubarão saying they were going after tourists with the bomb on Belle Isle. Did they even have demands? And Belle Isle is just uproot from this tunnel if we look at the map of Detroit. So it seems like this was purely just to cause chaos. If they didn't have demands, this is just to, again, spread Rainbow thin and also tarnish their reputation from the GSAG, which works. That's also key infrastructure as well. Now, as we move into the part of this battle pass, which seems to take place after the operatives have been informed of Rainbow's deactivation, we have a very important one by Warden. Now, what's important about this is that he is, one, not only in contact with the current US president, which obviously they're going to have to be if you have this massive evacuation and issue happening in Detroit on US soil, but because of the president, which is name dropped here, this actually gives us an insight into when Rainbow Six Siege's lore takes place. And honestly, it seems like it's not even close to 2025. So the first thing we hear from Warden is saying, primaries are in a couple of weeks. Detroit is going to shake things up in a way I don't think we can predict. With primaries being where the parties would elect their candidates for who is going to run. But Warden has also been in contact with the president. It makes sense, he's ex-Secret Service, and he personally was in the protection detail of this president when he was Secretary of State, so he knows him personally, and it was his commendation which got Warden into Rainbow. With Warden saying, President Baldwin called me personally last night. He wants me in the Oval Office by tomorrow morning. The president didn't sound happy. Can't blame him. Covering up Rainbow's involvement is going to be a political nightmare. With his final one saying, and I'm not sure who he's talking to here, the mayor's safe in Toledo, calling evacuation shots. What else do you need me to handle? Now, it's likely that he was talking to his squad leader or even the president here or someone in the White House as he was doing protection detail for the mayor, which would make sense given his past and what he specialized in. He was Secret Service at the highest level. But let's rewind it a little bit to when he's talking about President Baldwin. Now, the first time we ever got the name drop of President Baldwin was in the lore and bio for Warden, saying that Warden would save Baldwin's life when he was Secretary of State and would then go on to serve him whilst he was president. But here's something very important. In Warden's bio, we learn that he was recommended to Rainbow and Baldwin would personally give his commendations to Harry as Baldwin would near the end of his second term in office. Now, US presidents can only do 2 full terms. You cannot do any more. It's against the Constitution. So if primaries are coming up very soon and Baldwin is still the standing president, that means that Warden has likely only been in Rainbow for a maximum of 2 years. Now, in our real life, Warden released in 2019, and the only solid date we truly have in Rainbow Six Siege narrative is the fact that the white masks and the reactivation of Rainbow happened in 2015. That is kind of the only date we have to start with. So honestly, Rainbow Six Siege's narrative could be taking place in 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021. We don't actually know. But what we do know is it's not actually been as long since Warden joined and some other operatives joined as we may think. The gap between them hasn't been as long. Just because we have a new season every 3 months doesn't necessarily mean that's what happened in the lore. Just because the Keres Legion conflict has happened over 3 years for us doesn't necessarily mean that's how it's happened in the lore. If President Baldwin is still in office and Warden joined Rainbow nearing the end of President Baldwin's second term, which when I say nearing the end could be the second half of his second term, meaning that he still had 2 years left, that means that the narrative does not even come close to being set in 2025. The timeline can get very confusing. However, this does seem to be an intentional thing that they put in here. It doesn't seem like the writers forgot that Baldwin was ending his second term when Warden joined. This is intentional. And this is the closest piece of information they've actually given us for the timeline of Rainbow Six Siege and what year it takes place in, ever. They've never given us something which was as concrete as this, so this is interesting. But if we think about it right now, if primaries are starting soon, and Rainbow is now being deactivated, it makes a lot of sense that Warden himself may potentially run as a candidate. It's what Jack Ryan did, and honestly, it would make sense for his character. Like I mentioned a second ago, Jack Ryan becomes president back before Rainbow's even established. So it's not far-fetched in this universe for one of our main characters to become the president of the United States, and Warden has a very good qualification history. He was Secret Service for the president himself. He served in Rainbow. Of course, that's not something he can go telling people during a campaign. But mark my words, right now, I would not be surprised if in the narrative of Rainbow Six Siege, President McKinley will be the replacement for President Baldwin. Or maybe even the next president after that. Maybe I'm just going a bit too fan theory here, but makes a lot of sense for the character. So with that, the operators are now informed that Rainbow has been deactivated, and that the only two standing squads will be the Alpha team and the Delta team. Everyone else is to stand down. Now let's start this section with a quote from Aya Smith in this battle pass. She is the one who we've seen both Nighthaven and Rainbow dealing with over the past 2 seasons, and she says, "The work never ends. Someone has to be the voice of reason. I guess it'll have to be me." Which is interesting because we know that she personally does not want Rainbow to be deactivated. So by voice of reason, does this mean that she's going to contest the vote that the GSAC done and look for a new method to keep Rainbow going? Maybe even introduce a new 6 or a compromise that can be made to at least keep half the team? Well, it seems like the GSAC already have an idea of what they want to do going forward. Now, this stuff's a bit cryptic, but we can make some, assumptions about what is being said here. This starts off with Osa talking to Callie, saying, "Callie, I just had a very interesting phone call. GSAC wants to... Right, let's talk when you get home." What did the GSAC want to do, Osa? What do they want to do? Ah! But I think it's worth noting as well that we have Brava talking to her cousin, Capitao, saying, "GSAC wants to talk to me about a special assignment, Vincent. We might need to wait before another family reunion." So not only has the GSAC been contacting Callie and Osa, they've been contacting Brava as well, seemingly behind the back of her squad leader. And her squad leader here is Hibana, and Hibana plays a big part in this battle pass, and you'll actually notice a lot of the operators in this battle pass are viperstrike operators, and they're all going to get the news from Hibana herself, and it seems like most of the operators will get this deactivation news from their relevant squad leaders. But let's stick to the Nighthaven bit for a second here. We have Callie talking to IQ, saying, "GSAC will remember that without Nighthaven, the news would be telling a very different story, and it's all thanks to you." I don't know about you guys, but it seems like the GSAC and Nighthaven are in quite a good standing with each other right now, and it definitely seems like Nighthaven will get the Rainbow funding like I theorized. But even IQ is a bit confused about this all, because she says, "Callie sounded strange in our call, Osa. You would tell me if something was wrong, right?" Well, let's get some insights for some other operators as well. We get to see Hibana talking to Jackal and the rest of Kappa team saying, "Pull out, Kappa team, your work is done. It's time for your final debrief." With Jackal responding, rightfully so, saying, "What do you mean pull out? We're under fire, Hibana. How the fuck do we do that?" We also have a hint at Maestro potentially joining the private sector, maybe even Nighthaven, saying, "Part of me misses the old mercenary life. If Rainbow's over, maybe I should have a talk with Denari." Now, this seems quite interesting as well, because it doesn't even seem like Denari is 100% fully Nighthaven, more is Callie's hidden enforcer who she calls upon, but does his own work as well. So it's not that even Maestro would join Nighthaven, it's that Maestro would join Denari, and the two of them would operate as these guns for hire. They clearly work well together and get on well, and I don't know, I would love like a buddy cop game with Denari and Maestro just being guns for hire. That would be sick. We have one from Capital regarding the new weapon we have in game, saying, "Too bad. I barely got to put it through its paces," implying that he only just started using that weapon and Rainbow has been deactivated. So he didn't really get a chance to use it as much as he wanted to. Now, I'm not sure if this is Azami also showing interest in the private sector, but that's what she's technically done, being a private bodyguard. But she is talking to Grim, saying, "I don't understand why people are so wary of you, Grim. You're efficient and easy to understand." So remember, Azami's goal at the end of the day is pure vengeance. So if Rainbow's been deactivated and Nighthaven have more funding, I can 100% see Azami joining the private sector. She doesn't really have a major loyalty to Rainbow. She is on a path for vengeance, and Rainbow gave her the opportunity. If Rainbow's gone, and she clearly likes how people like Grim works and how other agents work, then I wouldn't be surprised if Azami joins Nighthaven as well. IQ talks to one of her former teammates, Glaz, saying, "Glaz, we already took care of the streets. The buildings are local authorities' responsibility now." So with Rainbow being told to pull out, it's just up to the local authorities to clean up the mess and what other methods that the GSAC have in place now. And it's also a callback to one of Glaz's previous statements in a battle pass, where he was analyzing the graffiti of the city, and he saw that the city was hurting because, just like his original operator trailer said, an artist and a sniper notices details. But IQ also says, "I can't believe it's over. Feels like just yesterday I was called in to help with the white masks." So although she isn't even still on Rainbow personally, she's working for Nighthaven now, even she can't really believe that Rainbow has been deactivated. That was still a big part of her career right there. And of course the colleagues which she's currently working alongside in Detroit. Now this battle pass also tackles a very realistic issue that is being proposed here, and I'm glad that they're covering this, and that is, what are the operators going to do? Possibly my favorite quote in this battle pass is this one by Mira, saying, "Some of them won't be welcomed back by their CTUs, or even their home countries. Who's going to make sure they're taken care of?" Which is a very genuine question which has arisen here, and I'm glad that they haven't beat around the bush with that. What are these ops going to do? It's not like they can just go back to their daily routine of the previous units they worked in. Their spots would have been taken by now. There has been bridges burned as well with some operators. If you look at this one by Vigil, where he says, "Dokubi is wanted by our government. What she chooses to do next is up to her, but please give her a path to safety." So she's most likely wanted by the government because of that hack which got her into Rainbow. So whatever she does, she can't go back to South Korea. And I like the touch by Vigil saying, "Please give her a path to safety." We even have one regarding Alibi as well, and I guess the potential mess that was caused because of that whole Vinci Guerra thing. And it's by Habana saying, "I made some calls, Alibi. You shouldn't have any issues when you're back to Italy. It was good to fight alongside you." Now, I don't know if that's referring to maybe some issues she has with the authorities, since it does seem like she was responsible for the leak, or maybe even the Vinci Guerras as well, and whatever remains of them, you know, because she did show her face there, she was undercover, so she can't just kind of go back to being a civilian when she's done that type of work. Kaid says, "All GSAC sees is a weed to pull, but these roots have taken, and rest assured, they will grow again." So what he's saying here is, although they've deactivated Rainbow, there is a cause and a shared purpose there which they cannot deactivate. They can't get rid of that. And that this is not the end of Rainbow. Scopos makes a very good point, saying, "This is how it happened last time. Rainbow's absence is what opened the door for the white masks. Now they're making the same damn mistake." Even Scopos can see that deactivating Rainbow after the events of Vegas 2 was an issue, and it caused a rise in terror. And the GSAC are just repeating history. Scopos can see the stupidity from this, but the GSAC can. Why is that? Now this one's a little off topic, but we get to see the small arc between Thermite and Aruni continue, with Aruni saying, "Thermite, I need you not to blame yourself. It was only a matter of time before this started. I promise, I'll be okay." Now, I don't think she's referring to the deactivation of Rainbow. I don't think she's referring to anything regarding something like that. I believe she is referring to the fact that her body is rejecting her prosthetic limbs. This is something that we learned, I think, a few battle passes ago at this point, when she was talking to Finka. And now it seems like she's getting to a point where she may not even be able to operate much longer, at least in the traditional way she is doing it, unless Osa can continue to make advancements in robotics. And of course, she's telling Thermite not to blame himself because he still blames her entire accident on himself. And now that her condition is actually getting worse, a lot of that blame may creep up again. I do wonder what this means for Aruni though, because we assumed that her condition was getting worse and, you know, she got a few upgrades as well and she was able to continue, but that doesn't seem to be the case. So the future of Aruni does seem quite uncertain. Hibana also talks to Mira as well, saying, "It's all over, Mira. We've got the order from GSAC. Go home, you've done enough." But Mira responds by saying, "These people are my family, Hibana. I don't know who I am without them anymore." Osa also talks to Mira saying, "People die in our line of work, Mira. Don't let it get in the way of your passion." Now, I think this can be interpreted in a few ways, saying, don't let the death in this line of work get in the way of the passion of the work you do, or don't let the deactivation get in the way of your passion, which is building these gadgets and serving Rainbow, because people in our line of work die. You can interpret that one in a few different ways, in my opinion. And it would make total sense as well for Osa and Mira to come together. They are the two main brains behind most of the gadgets we have in Siege. So them coming together, maybe with Mira joining Nighthaven, would make a lot of sense. We have Zero, aka Sam Fisher, also talking to Mira saying, "When all of this is over, Mira, take a nice long vacation. Then we'll figure out how to save the world in our own ways." Now, Sam is definitely not done with this fight, and it definitely seems that stuff isn't over. Oryx also talks to Mira as well, saying, "Mira, I can't go without thanking you for tailoring my equipment all this time. So, thank you." And the final part we're going to look at in this battle pass is the Alpha and Delta team. The 4 remaining operatives, I guess 3 remaining operatives, because one of them is Nighthaven's agent, who are now left of Rainbow. At least it's only these 4 as we know so far, with the Delta team being Dokkaebi and Ash, and the Alpha team being Thatcher and Denari. Now, we have Gridlock saying, "How did Dokkaebi talk her way onto Delta team? I thought she was under psych observation." Solus replies by saying, "Delta team is who they had left, Gridlock. They didn't have the luxury of time to argue." So that was the ops that wouldn't have been on deployment at that time. We knew Ash was at the Nighthaven HQ with Callie and Smith. Denari also came in there. Thatcher would have been off operation, and Dokkaebi would have been just out of recovery. So those were the only people who weren't deployed, hence why they're on this mission. But Amaru doesn't agree with this, and she says, "We know where the enemy is now. My team should be on their way to the port, not standing down. GSAC is risking too much on too few operators." And the final thing we hear in this battle pass is the Alpha team, Denari and Thatcher, talking to each other, with Denari saying, "This mark of yours is running scared, Thatcher. Too bad. I had hoped he'd be up for the challenge." With the mark, of course, being Phobos, who, to Denari, is running away like a coward rather than facing them, which he had hoped. And with that, that was the Battle Pass lore for Year 10 Season 4. I feel like every season these get more and more in depth, and the world building gets a lot better, the operator interactions get more deep, and I really liked a lot of the stuff we had in this Battle Pass. I think this was one of the most in-depth ones, and hopefully my breakdown was easy to understand and easy to follow. So be sure to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Drop a like on this video if you did enjoy, and if you want to see how this story continues, make sure you sub and make use of that notification bell as well. Don't worry, I will have an updated entire lore video coming before the end of Year 11, so be sure to stay tuned for that. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll catch you in the next video.